This is part one of a review of Wolfbox's EV charger. They have two categories of EV charger, the Tesla and the standard. Tesla is NACS, standard is 1772. Under standard, which is what this is, they have a 40 amp, a 48 amp, and a 50 amp. I'm not speaking of breaker size, I'm speaking of power output. This is the standard 50 amp. I'm doing this as a multi-part review so that I can do an unpacking. If there are any parts that I need or supplies I need to do the install that I don't already have, I can do the review. I can do the parts separately. So here is the unpacking portion of the review of Wolfbox's standard 50 amp EV charger. So, an outer box, doing the unpacking with you guys so that you guys get to see everything that I do. They've got QR codes for installation instructions, and or if you need assistance finding someone to help install this. Got the quick start guides, again with QR codes for the app, etc. That's probably going to come in the second part of this review. Got a user manual, and we've got stickers to indicate which charger this is. They're giving you stickers to label your electrical panel, which is nice. I may or may not use those, but I'll take a look. Good packing. So one of the questions I had was whether this is a hardwired model. One of the questions I had was, prior to unpacking it, was whether or not it was hardwired internally or if they provided a whip. They are providing a whip. It's not going to be enough to do the install. So let's see what gauge wire this is. I'm sure it's going to end up being 6. Looks like it's 2 hots and a ground, no neutral, not uncommon for a charger. Still looking for the wire gauge to be written on it. Maybe it's written on the outer casing. Let's remove the charger itself. Looks like a nice case design. They are recommending a 70 amp breaker, which I knew in advance. I have obtained that already. Yep, it is 6 gauge wire. Thankfully, I do have some 6 gauge wire, so I won't have to obtain that. We've got the whip, 25-foot cable, mounting for the 1772 connection, combined with a wire coil. That'll work well. (1772) connection with a rubber cap. That is not on many chargers that I have seen, including the one that this one will replace. This one's going to replace a square D 40 amp breaker, 30 amp output level 2 with a 1772. And a 15-foot cord. This has a 25-foot cord. They're providing Velcro for wire management, which may or may not be used. We've got a wall bracket and anchors and screws. And we've got management cards. As this is a smart charger, it appears that it's manageable with RFID. That is more important if it's mounted in the exterior. This will be mounted on the interior of a garage. 2 charging cards and a management card. So we'll get into that a little bit later. And wall plate, allowing you to mount the wall plate and not the charger itself. That'll make it easier for leveling. Pretty straightforward. And on the exterior, covering the LCD screen, we've got another QR for a download of the Wolfbox EUV app, recommending you check the manual, etc., etc. Welcome back to Wild Hobo TV. This is part 2 of the installation review of the Wolfbox Standard Edition, so 1772 connector, 50 amp EV charger. As this is not an electrical instruction video, nor am I an electrician, this is not that kind of video. In advance of this part, a 70 amp breaker was installed per Wolfbox's requirements, and a junction box, just to handle length issues, is in place with 6-gauge wire going to that breaker to match the 6-gauge wire coming out of the charger input whip. I've done some initial measurements. Didn't want to go too far, so I can show you the mounting to the wall. The wall bracket we looked at last time is pretty simple. They provide all the hardware. It takes a couple of 5/16 lags at the top that are on keyhole, and then they've got a final at the bottom for leveling and centering. But this bracket goes on the back of the charger before it gets hung. So I'm just doing a test fit. I've already done some initial measurements. I'm going to throw in the lags and temporarily hang the charger and see how it fits. And if it looks good, we'll tighten everything down. As you can see, we've got 2 hots in the ground coming out of the junction box. For extra safety, they have wire nuts on them, but the breaker is turned off. Those labels are old. Breakers are turned off, and it's already been metered to verify that there is no voltage. These are keyholes. I'm going to put them in with a little space. And check the bracket. See how our clearance is. I like it to be as tight as possible while being able to get it off. So that's a little too tight. Loosen those up a hair. They're snug, but it comes off. Now we're going to attach it to the body of the charger. This will be hard to see and hold up, but it is 3 machine screws that go into the back of the charger, and then it goes on the wall. So stand by. Different bit. Thanks for everyone's patience. This should just take a second. I will say, while you can't see me, I am very impressed with the completeness of this setup. They did not seem to miss anything. They provided everything you will need. Okay, sorry to be out of frame. Without an extra cameraman, that's hard to do. So we've got the bracket attached to the unit, and we're going to do the test fit. The keyhole. And I'm very happy with where that ended up. And we lost a wire nut on the ground, which doesn't matter. I'm going to check level because I'm detailed. So that looks pretty good. That's going to be in a great spot. That's coming down for a second. We'll put our last anchor in and secure it to the wall. Sorry about all this dipping out of the frame. Hard to avoid for this kind of an install. It's not quite large enough, but it's extremely close for that anchor. So we're just gonna ream the drywall out a little, and in she goes. Nothing runners are metric, so we're just going to use a Phillips bit. So charger going back on the wall. And the final securing to the wall. Our anchor, and we're in good shape. Little wiggle. I think that anchor is a little small for this hardware. So we'll use something else. I'll get another self-tapper, be right back. This should be a little more appropriate for that size anchor. Not happy with that. And I'm not going to half-ass this install. Pull it down and use a different anchor. I'm not real happy with that one, but that's easily fixable. Let's use a little better wall anchor. That's going to work out better. So far, that is my only complaint. And that stuff to me is little and insignificant and doesn't bother me in the slightest. I've always got extra hardware laying around if the supplied stuff doesn't end up working great. And that one is black. So it blends right into the bracket, and I prefer it anyway. Now we've got no movement. I'm very happy with that. So as we said, we've got 8-gauge wire, an H gauge and an H gauge whip. Let's connect up these wire nuts, starting with the ground. I may change these to inline connectors later if I feel like it, but I like to test without permanent heat shrink connections if possible. Do the standard tug test. This is an appropriately sized wire nut for 6-gauge wire rather. Excuse my error. In addition to this, I previously had a 32 amp maximum level 2 charger installed here and have this circuit monitored for kilowatts used, amps used, anything. And we'll be testing it with a Chevy Bolt EUV. It's a 2023. So I've got some metrics charging that same vehicle with 32 amps. Rather, that square D charger that was removed is rated for 32 amps, but was only pushing 30. And I was getting an average of a little over 7 kilowatts of output to the vehicle. And that vehicle is capable of much more than that. So we're going to see some real charging metrics in comparison to an older level 2 charger. Get this buttoned up before we start messing with breakers. I seem to like losing my tools today. I feel like this is a little bit of a disjointed review with the installation, but I really wanted to share the mounting process and how it went, because I think that matters. And if the only problem with the mounting process was that wall anchor didn't work in this particular drywall, I think that's no big deal at all. As there was a charger there previously, I am temporarily going to use that 1772 hanger just to make this a little quicker. Well, let's see how that works out. As this is installed indoors in a garage, there is no need for the rubber cover at this time, but as was shown in the previous video, the rubber cover is quite nice to have, and it is not on all chargers. All right, we are connected. I previously downloaded the app And in part 3, we're going to power this thing up. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is part 3. I know it's been a very long time since you saw part 2, which was really mounting it to the wall and wiring it up. It was quick, it was brief, but I wanted to share it. So now we're going to power it up. I've already downloaded the app, which will probably be difficult to see, but I'm going to provide some screenshots in the review later. It is set up to use Bluetooth, so when it's powered up, it should detect it, allow me to add a device and start setting it up. So, with no further ado, I'm going to turn on the breaker. I'm also going to get rid of that. Oh, so satisfying. Oh, that's so good. Was it good for you guys? When you remove those little films protecting the screens on all of your devices, doesn't that just make you tingle all over? It does for me. All right, so we've got power. It's showing degrees in Fahrenheit, 68 in the garage. That always makes me very happy. Let's see what happens when we add device. It wants location permissions, which is fine. In this case, I think while using the app is enough. Per the instructions I read before, it should be in Bluetooth mode. I haven't seen anything come up yet, but I'll be a little bit more patient. And we have a Wolfbox EV charger detected. I am going to change Wi-Fi networks. This particular device requires a 2.4 gigahertz network. So I have a utility SSID set up that I use for that. This appears to be one of those apps that wants to send the connection that you're already on. So when you're setting these up, make sure your smartphone is set to the same Wi-Fi connection that you want the charger to be on, even if that's temporary. You will need to know the password for it. I'll take care of that in a second. And it is adding. It currently says being added. We've got the LED changed to teal from the previous red. And my app says added successfully. You'll see in the upper right of your LCD screen a Wi-Fi symbol. And I'm hitting done. It says on the app, new device firmware found. Since we're not charging, it's brand new, I would like to be on the most recent firmware, so I'm going to say update now. It's currently updating. It says to be updated 1, because we're only updating one device. About 40% done on the status bar on the app. 70%, give or take. That was pretty quick. Almost done. I would say the status bar is at 98%. I hope this is partially visible at least. This, in this case, is updating to version 3.1.17. That was the main module update. It says it was complete. It's doing an update of the MCU module now. Looks like that's updating to 1.2.6. Obviously, these versions are likely to vary for your installation, but you're bored, so you want to hear me talk about versions. I know you do. This one's taking a little longer, but I think it really is only taking long because we're watching it. Let's be real. I'm not very good at these videos. I like this stuff. I enjoy electricity. I really enjoy EV stuff. We have 2 plugins. We have one full electric 2023 Chevy Bolt EUV. And we have a Volvo XC60 Recharge, which is a plug-in hybrid. Both of which work great for us. We absolutely love it. Many of you know I'm a big Jeep guy. The Bolt was purchased to take miles off of the Jeep. Every mile I put on that, I realize isn't on the Jeep. Don't get me wrong. I'd far prefer to drive the Jeep, but I would like to keep it until I'm dead. But for all you Jeep people that may be bored with this EV stuff, don't forget we've got fully electric Jeeps already available. The, oh, my brain is just failing today. The Wagoneer, the fully electric Wagoneer, I was at a dealer today and saw several of them on the lot, and they are sharp. A lot of you guys out there have the 4xe Wranglers, the JLUs. So just because I'm a Jeep guy doesn't mean I don't like EVs. If I'm on my regular errands around town, I'm driving that. I'm very interested to see, with my roughly 250 mile range, how much quicker I can charge. I'm also very excited because this is a smart charger in being able to schedule my charging. We happen to be on an electric service that has peak hours. Now I'll be able to schedule the charging for the evening after when it's on off-peak. As long as it's finished before I wake up, what do I care? Updated successfully. So we have some settings. We've got charging current. Our choices are 16 amps, 24 amps, 32 amps, 40 amps, 48 amps, and 50 amps. Initially, having looked up the maximum capability of the Chevy Bolt EUV, I'm going to set it to 48 amps because that's what I believe its capability is. Plug and charge. So we've got an option, and I read about this before, but I'm sharing it with you. Plug and charge allows you to charge without using the RFID cards. Probably much more handy for charging when your charger is on the outside of your house. I'm going to turn that on later, but for now I'm going to leave it off so we can test the RFID functionality. Schedule charging, we'll do that later. We can look at what it looks like. It gives you start time, end time in 24-hour time. Charging current is auto. We get push notifications before the charging starts. I'm not going to turn that on, but I wanted to see what it looked like. We've got a data screen. I know this is hard to see. I'm just describing it as well as I can. We can see kilowatt hours, cost. That's reference only. That depends on how much your electrical service costs. We can set vehicle information. We can set the battery capacity. That's quite nice, and I didn't know that was there. I'm going to put in Bolt EUV. I believe it is a 66 kilowatt hour battery. I will double check that later. Mileage. It depends. If that's the odometer or the range, I'm guessing that's odometer. I can check that and add it later. So let's plug in a car and see what happens. I'm going to take it out of the hanger. We have no shortage of cord, having gone from a 15 to a 25. And as expected, it has not started charging. So let's grab an RFID card. We've got 2 charging cards. And it has started charging. We've got voltage right on the screen, charging indicator, and current. It's slowly ramping up current. We're at 23, we're at 30, 34, we've already exceeded the other one, 39, 42, 44, 45, still climbing. I'm pretty impressed. This is a vast improvement over a basic non-smart charger. And there may be others out there, but it's the only one that I've seen that exceeds 48 amps of output. So far, we're outputting at 45.18. It's still climbing. It's climbing at a slower pace. And we're at a perfect range between 220 and 240. At this moment, we're at 236.7. I'm impressed. So I'm going to come back to this and give you guys some information. In fact, why don't you come with me? Let's just grab the camera and let's go see what the car says. The car has about 50% capacity. It is currently about 10 p.m. Mountain Time, and it says it'll be done in roughly 3 hours and 45 minutes. That's fantastic for just under 50% charging. That would be significantly longer to put 30 plus kilowatt hours in there at 7 kilowatts per hour. This is fantastic. I'm liking it, guys. I'll come back with a little more review after it finishes charging. But this is a fantastic product. I've got no complaints. I'm going to dig into the app a little bit more. In fact, let's check my monitoring. So I'm monitoring that circuit with a third-party product. Let's see how, oh yeah. So we are putting out 10.6 kilowatts currently. I measured it earlier with the previous charger, and I'm going to the screenshot to remember accurately. Let's see where we're at. It was at 7.2 kilowatts with the previous charger. Now we're at 10.7 kilowatts. That's fantastic. Couldn't be happier. It's going to be much more efficient, much more information, much more flexibility. Check out this charger, guys. I think you'll all love it. Have a great day.